Hey there, folks. Taylor Ellwood here, and I decided to do an impromptu video this evening on how to deal with laziness and procrastination in your magical practice. Because I noticed this is one of the challenges that people are having around their magical work. And believe it or not, I do get it. I know that if most people would say, well, Taylor, you're always talking about magic and you're always doing magical work, and man, I'm procrastinating sometimes. I'm lazy about it, and how do I be more like you? But the reality is that we all have our moments, myself included, where I don't feel like doing the work, where I do feel lazy or I want to procrastinate. And so I get it. Now, if you were to ask me how much time I put aside each day toward magical work, well, I mean, take a guess if you feel like it. I'll give you a few seconds here. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So, I start my day out with doing qigong in the morning. Um, and I do count that as part of my magical practice because it is. And so, I do that to wake my body up. And that's about, 15 minutes, okay? It's not like a huge thing because I've got to get ready for work. But I do it anyway to wake my body up and wake my mind up. In the evening, after I'm done with work, I go and I basically spend about 2 to 3 hours in magical work. I feel like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of time. Yeah, it is. That's my choice, mind you. I am doing my sphere of artwork and then the subsequent meditation, and then afterwards I am doing qigong practices, and continuing to learn and practice the techniques that I'm learning right now. So there's a fair amount of time involved. Do I expect that of anyone else? No, I don't. And there are times where I don't feel like doing all of that. There are times where I'm just like, oh, I just want to I want to do other things. I want to play a video game. I want to read a book. I want to just write. But nonetheless, I've gotten to the point where pretty much every day now, I just do this stuff. And I do it because my body has come to the point where it craves it. The key to really dealing with any kind of instituting any habit in your life really does boil down to the fact that you have to consistently do it over a protracted length of time. Like if you're able to stick with something for a month, you're on the right path. If you're able to stick with it, 2 months, you've gotten to the point where your body basically craves it and needs it and wants it. I mean, I can tell you that at around like 2:20 in the afternoon, 2:30 in the afternoon, that's around the time that my body's like, you got to meditate now, because that's when I meditate and I start to feel it. So it's really key and crucial to understand that if you have an experience of procrastination and laziness in your life, and you're like, oh, how do I get around that? How do I deal with that? The answer to that is that you deal with it by recognizing how you have to institute the changes in your life that are going to allow you to do that practice. And there's no shortcuts here. I'm just going to be straightforward with you. There are no shortcuts when it comes to dedicating yourself to anything in life. If you want to do well at it, you have to put time into it. And it's and I'm not even counting when I write here, because writing for me is a magical practice. So when I'm writing, I'm mediating that writing, and I'm mediating the connection with the spirits and everything else. That's its own thing. But I'm not counting that in this, because that is its own thing. But if you truly want to do magical work in your life, you have to dedicate time to it. It's as simple as that. In Star Wars, Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. And that really is applicable here. You either do or you do not. There's no try. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. If you're trying, well, what's really going on there? So what I recommend doing though, and this is really helpful in terms of dealing with procrastination and laziness, is you don't have to commit to doing 2 to 3 hours a day like I do. Okay, I mean I'll be honest with you. Once I get to the point where I'm self-employed, it's probably going to be I'm probably going to split the day pretty evenly between writing and magical work. It's going to probably be 4 to 5 hours a day of each, and then the rest being toward other things. But that's me. That's what I want to do. It's just the level of work that I want to go to, and something I'm comfortable doing. Most people don't have that amount of puff when it comes to doing that work. If you can dedicate yourself to spending 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, and that's what you can do, then do that and gradually build on it. When I first started practicing magic, I wasn't doing it for an hour or a half hour. I was doing it for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes a day, and then I built it up to 20 minutes, and then I built it up to 30, and then it went on from there. And it really came right down to the fact that that's what I wanted to spend my time doing. But I still had to build up to it. You know, I didn't have the ability to concentrate for, 30 minutes at a time, for example, or longer that I easily have now. I just didn't, because that's just not the way that it works when you first start out. But if you do magical work every day, you're going to build up your stamina. You're going to build up your staying power. And you're going to build up your ability to get better results, because you're going to have more depth to pull from. This is the thing that a lot of people don't always recognize when it comes to magical work, is that they want the fancy results and the splashiness and everything else right away. They don't realize that you, just like with anything else, you have to build up. Like if you go and you exercise in a gym, are you able to lift 200 pounds right away? Probably not. More than likely not, unless you've already been doing some type of exercise. Or if you're doing qigong, are you able to do standing meditation for an hour at a time or longer right away? No. You have to build up. It's the same thing with magic. If I'm going to do a magical working, I have to necessarily build that level of work up. And in fact, I mean, the way that I approach things is that when I do workings outside of what I'm already normally doing, it's easier to do those workings because I've already got that necessary depth of experience and stamina and everything else that comes with it. So I say this not to burst anyone's bubble, but really to get you to think about, like, okay, if this is something that you want to do and you find yourself feeling lazy or whatever else, I mean, one, recognize what you're committing to. And if you feel discouraged from me telling you this, I mean, I'm doing you a service by being honest with you. I'm not gonna sell you a pipe dream. I'm not gonna tell you something you don't want to hear, because if I do that, I am not serving you. And really what it comes right down to at the end of the day is that any advice that I give, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt and test it. I'll always tell you that. But any advice I give, it's coming from a place of genuine service to you. It's coming from a place of I genuinely want to help you become better at this. But I also don't want you to push yourself. A good rule too with magical practice, and I get this from my qigong studies, is never extend yourself beyond 70%. In America, we have this tendency to go all in, like it's got to be 100%, 150%. And I would advise you not to do that with anything really, but certainly not with magical work. Do 70%. If you find that you can meditate for 20 minutes, for example, but then you find that you're like, oh, I can push it to 25, stop at 20 minutes. That's your 70%, if it comes easy to you. The reason why you want to do it up until the point where you maybe, if you start to feel strained, that's when you want to stop. The reason why you want to do that is because if you're straining with anything, you're actually, it counteracts the benefit. You're doing too much at that point, and you're going to set yourself further back. And so, like, if you're gonna do some magical work, like you're gonna do some daily work of some type, some meditation, some protection work, maybe some sigils or whatever else, do it. Do that work, but don't push yourself so far that then, like, the next few days you're not able to do it. I mean, what's the point then? The idea is to build yourself up over time, build up those reserves, because as you continue to do this, you will build those reserves up. And trust me here, as someone who has made this mistake early on, I did magical workings where I literally exhausted myself to the point where I even had well, I did some foolish things. Okay, a good example of this is I did a magical working when I was like 18. I was a dumb young man. Okay, and I had this girl that I was involved with, and she had this person that she really, her best friend, and he found out that he had a tumor, and they had to do some type of surgery, and if they did it wrong, and it was very easy to do it wrong, he'd be paralyzed for life. So I ended up doing a magical working where I made an offering to the elements that, I was willing to, give them whatever they wanted if they could help him out. Oh, and boy, did they take. I I did that working, and I was barely able to walk home, and I fell asleep, and I slept for like over 13 hours, and I was exhausted the next few days. On the plus side, that tumor ended up like shrinking and disappearing very quickly. I mean, when they went to do the surgery, they found they didn't even need to do it. But never again would I ever do that kind of thing. That was a lesson I took from that, because I had given myself over too much, and I had extended myself, and I had not put the proper parameters in place. So don't make young, dumb, and full of cum Taylor's mistakes of when I was 18. Don't make that mistake, okay? It's just not worth it. It's not worth it, and it can really set things back. And I had from that experience and some other stuff. I had a bit of a self-destructive side when I was younger. Um, I definitely had some effects that I had to deal with well into my 20s before I was able to counteract that stuff through the internal work that I did, and I was able to basically build up my energetic reserves and make some and transform my energetic structures in my body. I mean, I've done some fairly extensive work here that helps me with my reserves, and that's something I will talk about at another time, just because it is an interesting and useful topic. But for right now, for you guys, if you're dealing with laziness and procrastination, here's what I want you to commit to. Commit to doing something up to the point that you can recognize, okay, I've hit my 70%. Commit 5 to 10 minutes a day, if nothing else, to doing something, okay? Find a way to do it. And for those of you who have situations where you've got kids running around and things like that, okay, fair enough. I get it. That can be a serious distraction. That's where, if you can, reserve some time in the evening or in the early morning. Make it the first thing of your day or the last thing of your day. And just make that commitment. That is going to help you get a lot further in your magical practice. All right, that's it. Just a surprise video for you guys, because, hey, I love you all so much and everything else, and I thought I would address this topic. If you have any questions, feel free to share them underneath the video, and catch you later.